Hey everyone, it's Matt Williams. Welcome to another episode of the Drone Business Show. Today we're joined by Georgia Parnham from Skyfarer. Hi Georgia, it's good to see you.
Hiya. Likewise.
We've already said in this one we may have to mark this one 18 plus because
Yeah.
both of us when we talk, the few times we have chatted, we had to swear like troopers. It tends to go that way, right? So
That's just in the culture, being Aussie, sorry.
that's it. So just a heads up, if you are listening in the car with kids in the back seat, just a gentle heads up for you. But there we are. Georgia, thanks for joining us, mate. It's great to have you on. Like I say, you and I have chatted in the past couple of times recently about what you've been up to and the journey that you're on and the amazing things that you are doing. Not just what you've done, because I want to get that story out of you, right? And we all want to hear that. But what you're working on now, which is really exciting for the industry. And this is one of those things where we're trying to generate this platform where not only can the listeners and viewers learn and get kind of 5 to 10 years ahead of where they may be by just listening to all these inspirational people, but also, promoting the wellness of the industry and the future of the industry. And if we can help support that, then that's what we're trying to do. So yeah, mate, if you wouldn't mind, just let people know who you are, where you're from, what you do, and what it is. Yeah, let's go.
Righto. Okay. Long story short, because it's a bloody long story. I'm originally from Western Australia, a really, really small mining town in Western Australia. It's about a 16-hour drive away from the nearest city. Middle of nowhere. So I lived in this mining town kind of most of my life. Unfortunately, mental health kind of got really bad in my town just coming out of high school. So I knew I needed to make a kind of quick escape. So I booked a one-way flight to the UK in 2019, I think it was. Had about £200 in my account and figured it out from there. Didn't own a single pair of enclosed shoes, walked around in thongs. Sorry, what do you call them? Flip-flops.
Flip-flops, yeah.
And
you didn't
worked
walk
my
around
way
in the
around.
thong.
Yeah, no. Then, ended up on the Isle of Wight for a little bit, teaching motocross over there because I used to do motocross a lot back in the day. And then eventually found my way to Skyfarer. And I've been here for the last 5 years, going on feels like 50.
Nice. Oh, yeah, well, tell you what, though, in that 5 years, you guys have done like 50 years worth of research and development and,
Honestly.
implementation, right? It's been a pretty wild ride over the last few years for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell what year it is just based on the receding hairline of the team and my hair going grey. So
Nice.
But I've never learned so much in such a short amount of time. It's been an incredible experience, that's for sure.
Okay, so Skyfarer then, it's skyfarer.co.uk for anyone who hasn't or may not be aware of you guys. And for what I understand, you sit on the board of advisors now on the ESG side of things. So could you just walk us through kind of how you got started in the Skyfarer piece and what it is that Skyfarer do? And then we'll come back to kind of what you do for them and all that side of things.
Yeah, so Skyfarer is a beyond visual line of sight specialist operator, drone operator. We call it BVLOS here in the UK. So we've very much specialised on trying to push the boundaries of using drones for good in the UK, not just as one-off trials, but very much trying to scale this technology within the UK. So we've done some medical delivery trials. I'm actually wearing one of the old jumpers today. Recently, we've done a world first radiopharmaceutical delivery trial looking at dispersing radiopharma between NHS hospitals in the UK. And that's obviously used for CAT scans, MRIs, everything like that. So cancer treatments, like I said, I live on the Isle of Wight. If you are going for chemo, you've got to get a bus and a ferry to Southampton or to Portsmouth, whereas we could fly those products over in about 8 minutes. It's
interesting.
The use cases are incredible. But the key piece of that complexity is the regulation and the airspace that we operate in. The UK is very traditional with its airspace, so it's quite hard to innovate in. We've, over the last 5 years, very much been helping the regulator to write what that book looks like. A lot of operators have in the UK, but we're finally getting there. And we've recently adopted some of the kind of European legislation towards it, so things are becoming a little bit more standardized, so we can start to really commercialize some of these R&D projects that have just been projects for so long.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So, and I think that kind of the life piece is for
Mm,
me one of the big things that drones like. It's a big. You've got the whole fine last mile delivery and all that sort of stuff, but for me, this
yeah.
whole as we saw during the COVID pandemic and things like that, and I think you guys were involved. Those were some of the trials that you guys were involved in, right? Those first kind of moving.
We were
Was that you guys?
actually we were heading towards Africa at that stage, looking at
Okay,
the original business plan actually was third world country medical deliveries. And then COVID hit
interesting.
and we realized, well, actually, people back home here in the UK need this technology and need access to this. So we did focus back in the UK. It is one of the most complex environments to do what we're trying to do in. But I mean, once you do it here, you can do it anywhere. So
Yeah.
why not try?
That's it. And I think so that from that, like for me, it's one of the biggest potential bonuses of the more commercial side of drones, where you're not just, operating your smaller aircraft to deliver a product like a survey or media or whatever it might be. I don't personally believe in the whole urban air mobility
Hmm.
type piece necessarily at the
Yeah.
moment. I don't think it's a problem that we need to solve right now. I mean, I can see that it is a problem and there is a
Yeah.
potential solution there, but I think the money's been spent in the wrong place. This kind of stuff, though, running the medical samples, running medical supplies. You mentioned, the
Mm,
chemotherapy type
mm.
products, the radioactive type products, I guess, like
Yeah, yeah.
isotopes and
We
stuff.
had to work with specialized partners to get lead pigs manufactured that fit inside the aircraft that we've got. Obviously, weight comes into it as well.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that was a complex piece, but so cool that we've finally got it sorted now.
Yeah, that's mega. And then the other piece for me is things like drop in things like defibrillators or whatever it might
Mm.
be. If someone needed those in a crisis, and you guys, the Isle of Wight, or you say, well, maybe not in Australia when you're 18, 16 hours drive away from the
Yeah.
nearest town, but you probably need one closer, right? But even so, particularly in the UK,
Sea
with the way that
venom more for snakes back in
that's
Australia.
right. Here we go. It's
Yeah.
like it's like you've thought about it for years.
Yeah.
Um, no, that's really interesting. So, what kind of aircraft then do Skyfarer operate to run their operations?
Yeah, so we're drone agnostic. So that means that we can work with any manufacturer from around the world and integrate their platform and their GCAE into our system, and we can operate that for whatever use case. What we very much care about is mm, it's really cool what we're doing, right? But if no one can afford it, and it's not a shared utilization model, this technology is never going to be able to be used at scale in urban environments. So we're working a lot with drone in a box technology at the minute for local authorities and councils. But then we're still working with the likes of the Phoenix Wing systems, the big fixed wing type systems for those R&D projects. So, and then we've got all the DJIs. I mean, this place is just, I'm in the HQ now and it's like a hobby farm of drones at the minute. It's crazy.
That's
And the
amazing. Sounds
team
like a
keeps
dream.
bringing in and finding more.
Yeah, always. Because
Always.
what's the number of drones you need? It's the number of drones you got plus at least one, right? So
Yeah, and
always.
there's always the practice ones that end up, being practiced with. But
Yeah.
you actually mentioned on something before I want to kind of come back to that's really interesting is the whole urban air mobility side of things. It's an interesting topic. I'm sure we'll talk about the uncrewed women's network a bit later, but it's something that we've realized has actually become a bit of a problem for our industry. Our industry has kind of been bottle capped by the kind of big, larger eVTOLs, things like that. Billions of investment funds and public funds have gone into that industry. But what comes first? Drones. So a lot of those companies have now unfortunately folded.
Yes.
But it makes investor trust in our technology and what we're trying to do a heck of a lot harder. So from a funding perspective, I'm so with you. It really has been difficult with that put on it.
Yeah, and it's a really good point, mate. So thank you for raising it. It's one of those where, for me, like I say, the urban air mobility piece, it probably does and will and, you know, could
Eventually,
happen
yeah.
in the future. Brilliant. But right now, we need to concentrate on what's putting the bread on the table for people right
Yeah.
now. We need to concentrate on the regulations that affect people right now, wherever you are in the world. There's crazy things going on as we're recording this at the moment in America with DJI, or, you know, or not DJI, I suppose, depending on which side you look at it. And we've got, the airspace modernisation piece in the UK. For those in the UK that aren't aware of it, we've got, at the time of recording this, totally new regulations coming out in the UK for drones in just a couple of weeks' time, actually. We're shooting this in December 25. January 26, new rules come out, and that's changing all the time. Although I do feel, you know, I've been quite harsh on the regulator in the past. I do feel as though they are starting to get it, and they're starting to stabilize and normalize everything. I think finally they've heard what we're talking about. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, that the money that's come in, and that's why we're doing this drone business network piece. That's why we're connecting with other industry kind of thought leaders like yourself right now, because now's the time where we need to start coming together and as an industry and saying, right, things were going great. Then it started to get into big money and VCs and private equity and, you know, big dreams. And that's amazing. They've got to happen. But at the same time, those of us at on the grassroots, on the ground, working in it every day, we're like, this isn't helping us, and we need to pull that back together and get back on top of that, I think.
Yeah, that's been a kind of major frustration for us, is where we've bootstrapped for the last 5 years. You know, we've done a heck of a lot with not a lot. We haven't even done a seed round. So we our team, gosh, they grind and they get things done, and they're so dedicated towards the cause and what we're trying to do. But we're terrible about talking about it, because we're so busy about actually delivering it and working with the end user and the stakeholder and things like that, that we're terrible about talking about it. But then there's likes of other industry players who they talk so much about these fantastic trials, and all of that goes on, but then you realize, oh well, actually it's a packet of paracetamol being delivered. Or you're doing incredible use cases, but it's over water, where the complexity that we have is over land between different urban environments. You know, that's why we've kind of focused on addressing all of the complex ones. So like this medical delivery trial that I've got on at the minute, that was in the dead of winter between two NHS trust hospitals, daytime, nighttime, with manned aviation around us. We very much tried to knock the hardest thing on the head, to prove it was possible, and it took years to do, but I'm so glad we did it. I think the reason why we kind of connected was I did do a bit of a LinkedIn post saying I'm so frustrated with our industry, and it has been very frustrating because of the smoke and mirrors. And there's many people in the industry who feel the same, that it's hard to understand what's true and what's actually going on and what's not. But I think we have matured as an industry. I hope we have, anyway, to the point where things are actually happening now. It's no longer just talk of drones for good. We're actually starting to be able to deliver it now, and seeing the businesses who have managed to last through this excruciating last few years, who've had to pivot so many times just to still be here today and still keep their teams employed. It's fantastic. We've all made it to what feels like almost the finish line, where we can actually start delivering the impact of what drones can have and the benefits that they can have for good, because it's been a bloody long journey to get it.
Yeah, that's it. No, I couldn't have articulated it any better myself, to be honest. Like you say, the smoke and mirrors piece is the main reason I've started the Drone Business Network, so that we can work out who I say the right people, but who the genuine kind of people are, that if they say something, or if you need something, or you're struggling with something, they can help, or you can lean on each other and actually not ostracize the bad actors, but make it clear who is and who isn't to be trusted, because we're getting to that point now where that needs to happen. What's the you've mentioned the regulations, right? And obviously they've caused issues for all of us over the last kind of 10 to 12 years, since they were introduced, with all the changes. For you in particular, but then for the wider industry, what do you think are the biggest challenges in terms of what's to come now that we're past this? Hopefully we're getting over this gap where the funding piece and the bad rep that certain things like that have generated?
I mean, I think the sandboxes have been brilliant because there has been more channels for us to communicate what we want and what we need to actually start delivering on a lot of this stuff. Um, I mean, the surprise invoices don't help when you're a startup trying to make it and you submitted something and have received a chunky invoice that you weren't expecting. That's been difficult. But they genuinely have wanted us to succeed, and I say that with my hand on my heart. You know, there's been times where we've needed an application to come through at the last minute and they've worked with us to get it. So fair dues, you know, we're all struggling. Everyone in this world at the minute, in this economy, is so over-resourced, under-resourced and overutilized at the minute. So fair enough. I think the next piece is just standardization of it all. Obviously, there are going to be some complexities with certain types of environments that we're trying to operate in and with certain types of platforms. That's understandable. But the basics of, you know, an operational authorization or a PDRA application or whatever it is, it would be fantastic to have baselines and some standardization to enable us to be able to make that business as usual as an operator. But then also have one-to-one time if there was a specific authorization we were going through that we could gather that support. That would be ideal.
Yeah. And do you think that support and that help and guidance needs to come from the regulator, or is it one that you can see there being like a layer in between where the regulator does their regulatory piece, you do your operational and delivery piece, but then there's a facilitation layer in the middle? Or is it actually we just need direct from the regulator right now because that's all we can deal with?
Speaking on behalf of a startup, that middle layer is being filled at the minute by consultants to offer that regulatory advice. A lot of startups can't afford them. Their hourly wages are, gosh, I could only dream.
Yeah.
So I think the startups that are very much bootstrapping and in early stages of funding or commercialization, it would be great to have kind of one-on-one support directly from the regulator, and those who obviously can afford that more specialized advisory support. There is a lot of exceptional people out there who really do have a lot of industry knowledge, and we work with, but I'm very fortunate that we are able to work with them.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, and that's it. I think for me, we've, as frustrated as I've been over the years with the UK regulator in particular, I've managed to find opportunities in that frustration for that kind of we've managed to exploit effectively and generate businesses out of, whether that was consulting, whether that was delivering the training and certification side of things. And I think I feel very much as though actually we're approaching a point where you mentioned about standardization before. It does feel, as again, frustrating as the journey has been towards what the UK, I think, are terming the RPC L1 and L2 and L3. These are the different certification and qualification standards that they are trying to, or I mean, they've put the frameworks in place. They're trying to, the regulators trying to get them out there. And that should actually help to enable, I guess, the future flight piece, which is what it's all about, the beyond visual line of sight thing. So hopefully we are on a track in the UK in particular to achieving that. I know Canada, where I am sat right now, bought in there. Yeah, that's it. It's minus 26 right now and it's snowing. I've just had to go and plug the truck in so I can start it later, but because the oil's frozen. But yeah, it's all good. But Canada implemented their BVLOS, their new BVLOS regulations that's enabled complex operations. So, and America have just, announced the Part 108 side of things. So there's a lot of moves now, actually. I think because the tech's been proven, right? And proven to be kind of safe. Yeah, that's it. Like, they're not all the drones aren't falling out of the sky every day. And, thankfully, heaven forbid, hurting people. It just isn't happening, hasn't happened. So I think, it's a more proven technology now. So hopefully we are moving towards that standardization side of things, getting on board with all of that. And I do wonder, though, whether there is this opportunity for someone who's listening, or if any VC houses end up listening to it, whether there is this opportunity to create a layer in between where actually it's not private consultation anymore necessarily. There is this facilitation piece, between the operators looking to do more complex stuff and the regulator. And I think, yeah, for me, that could be a really interesting opportunity.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, this industry is not going to progress without an ecosystem. Not one operator can do everything. And I think a lot of players in this industry have tried. A lot have failed for it and a lot are struggling. I'm a big believer in, we don't have all of the expertise in the house to do absolutely everything. And we need to rely on partners in our ecosystem to do that. And we've stayed very true to that. But when it comes to the regulatory piece, there's also the finance and funding side of it that comes into it as well. You mentioned future flight. This is one of the things that we've got a conversation coming up with for the UWN soon is funding in our industry, and how, if it has benefited startups in the space or if it's actually been a detriment to us. I mean, I think we've had 5 or 6 future flight challenge projects happened in the past, and we're still doing some. But once you do that project, it kind of closes out from that stage. You almost come up with a solution, but then there's no continuation of funding or support or mentorship to actually take that through to a commercialized business plan. It's all, there's a pot of money, everyone come up with a great use case, everyone go for it, it splits up the industry, we run out of money and we can't actually do anything with it because there's no continuation. And then that will come back through to the regulator because we don't actually have a lot of the things we need in place to go down that route. So there's a lot of different pieces in the industry that need resolving, need working, but we've never been closer. And it's a breath of fresh air to feel like that.
Yeah, that's it. And I'll be honest with the with what you just mentioned, with things like the future flight challenges and the grants that have been more recently available, and incentives and things like that to get into the industry. It's really interesting because I've noticed, and I've always wondered whether it's one of those things that, is it the demographic and psychographic of people that we attract into the industry at this phase that I mean, I'm one, right? So I feel like I can say it, that are we too geeky to look ahead to that? How do we commercialize this idea? Are we actually solving a problem that people will place a value on and we can make money from? Or are we just actually scratching an itch that solves a tick box because that's what the grant funding required? I don't know. It's
Yeah, I do think it's actually just a lot of people trying to skim water and keep their heads above water and pay their payroll each month. I think without the grants that we've had, to be completely honest, we wouldn't be here today. They have saved us on many occasions, but they've also introduced conversations around, are we pivoting? Are we heading down a different route than when we started? And we're forced to have those conversations and model the business in a different way purely because we're not able to commercialize when we thought we would be. You know, we thought BVLOS by 2024 for definite. And you have to model and evolve your business, your team's culture, everything, just to be able to realign to those new timelines. But I do think it's mostly people are going for grants just to keep themselves afloat until that regulation catches up and we can actually start commercializing in this industry.
Yeah, that's it. No, it's really interesting. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. And where all the yeah, that's it, especially for you guys. And where all the changes lead. But here's one of the big things, right? And one of the things that I want to talk to you about, like, people can't have helped but notice, but so far on the podcast, you know, we've done a bunch of episodes, and this is the first time we've had a female join us on the podcast. And this is something that I've always kind of championed within aviation. If people are capable, it doesn't matter what sex you are, whether, you know, we all bring something to the table, we all, you know, but the opportunities available to women in aviation, from my experience over 25 years now in the aviation world, military, civilian, you know, doing the drone piece for the last 12 of those, have been that the opportunities, I think, haven't necessarily been there. And I think for me, a big piece of that is the support. And it's amazing to have people like you on who are inspirational, who are doing big, you know, big roles within large future-facing companies, but also kind of raising the awareness and bringing the initiative. So I'd just like to spend kind of a few minutes, if you like, just talking through what it is that you're doing now to help encourage women into aviation and into the uncrewed world. Yeah, and how people can find out more about that. So over to you to chat us through that, if you would.
I'll try not to let that boast my ego too much. Appreciate it. But no, really, I'm very lucky to actually have an incredible team of guys around me who support me to do stuff like this. And when I do get grumpy and frustrated and want to speak up and swear a little, they let me. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I have found this industry very isolating. I can't tell you the amount of events I've gone to, and I'm the only woman in the space that's actually on the operational side, and the funding side, and all of that, and seeing all of the complexities of our industry in one. We go to Drone X, things like that. There's hardly ever any women on the panel. We're very lucky to have links with Catherine Ball and a few other women in the industry, but I definitely didn't feel like there was anyone in the same roles as me that I can vent to or talk about this collaboration piece, because a lot of men in our industry, they don't want to collaborate, unfortunately. That's just the black and white of it. But I got to a point about 2 months ago where I realized I'd had enough. Did a post on LinkedIn and just said, look, I'm really lonely. Is there any other women out there who want to collaborate with me? And I cannot, and I'm still gobsmacked by the amount of women that were in this industry that I had no idea about, and that were
Yes.
behind so many of these UK firsts that happened. But when you see those blog posts, when you see those articles, not one is ever mentioned. They might be in support roles, and that's fair enough, but still, it's definitely an unrecognized kind of part of the industry. But we do offer so much value, and we've come together twice now to be able to actually have a conversation around what we want to see within this industry. I think there's a lot of assumptions, unmanned to uncrewed. It's like, well, we actually don't care about
Yep.
that technicality, but what we do want to see is this, and this. And it's about giving ourselves a bit more of a voice to be able to make change that we want to see.
Yes.
And a lot of it is around the educational piece of our industry to inspire more women, more girls to be excited about our industry. You don't need a degree in aerospace engineering to become a pilot. I've been in this business for 5 years now, and I've not once received an application for a female remote pilot. Not once. I've gone to schools, universities, everything. And I really struggle to even speak to a woman who has any aspiration for this industry, because they didn't know that they could do it. So that's a big piece that we're going to be tackling with the UWN. But yeah, I didn't realize how many women are in this industry. I'm so glad to be connected with them all now.
Yeah. So this is the Uncrewed Women's Network. This is something that you've set up. How can people find out more about it? What is it that you guys are doing? And how can people get involved?
Yeah, so we're on LinkedIn. So we do have a page on LinkedIn called the Uncrewed Women's Network. Feel free to follow along. We share any good news stories with women in our industry across the globe. We actually had one lady in Tanzania. We had another one in Canada and things like that. It's incredible how far along a lot of these countries are that I had no idea about. But it's mainly supporting women in our industry who are struggling with something, or who have a problem and need a solution, or, these new regulations that are coming out in January. The technical way that a lot of it is written, my brain doesn't really understand it. I'm a, mechanically minded person. So being able to reach out to the women and saying, hey, can one of you take some time to help explain this section for me? And feeling like I've got a community to reach out to that I feel comfortable enough to ask those questions and to ask for some support or share different networks, or if one of us does lose our job, because the industry is just so hard at the minute, we can work together to find opportunities for each other. It's follow along on LinkedIn. We do have a WhatsApp group as well where we message and have coffee mornings and things like that, and it's great.
Nice. That's it. And I think, like I say, it's a really important thing that you're doing in that respect, in terms of getting the raising the awareness of the issues. And again, it's not just in this industry, right? It's a
No.
societal problem that covers across every aspect. And I'm sure there's probably, some people listening to this who are like, yeah, but what are we going to do about it? And for me, my wife's a feminist, and we have many debates and conversations about all of these things. But for me, it's just one of those, like, we all just need to support each other. It doesn't matter what sex you are, particularly in an industry like this where there are no physical reasons that you can't, that we can't all work together. And yeah, so it's very interesting. And I hope we can do more of it. And any time we can do anything, if anyone's listening and wants to get involved, please do follow along with Georgia on LinkedIn, and go and check out the network if it's something that you're interested in. Is there, and we'll talk about it offline probably, but if there's any way we can ever support you guys as well, then more than happy to do that. I don't know, I think you've just muted your microphone because I heard the dog shouting in the background.
Yeah,
but,
sorry. Chief Happiness Officer is barking at the delivery man.
That's it.
Working with a dog, it's never quiet. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It's more just getting the voice out there, and the more platforms we can speak to people on, it really is about networking. But it's not about setting targets in startups for, I want to have 5 women and 5 men. It's not about that. It's making sure that we all have an equal opportunity to go for those roles and do those things. That's kind of the difference.
And supporting each other when we do, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. So looking forward to the future then, for you guys in particular, what does the next kind of 12 to 18 months look like, ideally, for you guys, if you're able to share what it is that you're looking to do? Obviously nothing that I'm going to have to sign an NDA for and cut out of the show, but where does it look as though it's headed?
Yeah, absolutely. So the business has kind of got 2 arms on it. We've got Infinite Services, which is focused on utilizing Drone in a Box for different councils, and we're looking at scaling that out a lot more. We've already got 3 boxes at 3 different councils, and we want to very much grow that and help other organizations link into that shared model. It's not just councils that are able to use it, multiple businesses can benefit from that technology. So the commercialization side is very much focused on doing that remotely beyond visual line of sight. And then Skyfarer, gosh, I can't even tell you the amount of projects we've got going on at the moment. We've got some feature flight projects going on. We're continuing a lot of the work with ESA, future hospitals, and lots of other projects going on. So yeah, please do stay in touch with the LinkedIn. It'll be me updating you on what we've been doing.
You need to do more shouting about it. What? Just if I might ask, so I and again, this is just kind of a little bit of story time, I guess, right? But
please, yeah.
When Amazon first started looking at doing the drone delivery piece in the UK, I did a little bit of consulting for the initial scoping of the project, and it was hilarious because I remember being in this boardroom meeting, and I was like, I don't think you're going to be able to do what you want to do, and they were like, why not? And I just pointed at the window at the side of the boardroom, and the wind. This was in August, and there was a storm outside, and the wind was the rain was coming sideways, lashing against the window, and hailing and everything. I'm like, because the weather's crap in the UK a lot of the time, and it's something that, again, a lot of our listeners, doing the media side or the inspection side and that sort of thing with the drone technology, suffer from. There's only 200 decent flying days a year. How does the weather impact you guys and your type of operation when you're doing BVLOS work on a day-to-day basis?
We're very, very lucky with the technology that we work with, and that they do have good standards for precipitation for wind, for things like that. That medical delivery trial I mentioned, like I said, dead of winter, minus degrees, really windy, things like that. My chair is falling over, but the drone's still making headway. So
Nice.
we're very lucky with the technology that we work with, but it's the prep work of the trial and testing to get it to that stage that takes a lot of the time to enable us and our operators to be able to use that platform and trust it, especially when you're working with the likes of the NHS and a few other organizations, things like that. But technology just keeps getting bigger and better, and the DJI docks can operate in any conditions. They're fantastic. So yeah, it's just getting better.
Yeah, interesting. Because I think that's one of those things then. So, I mean, when I was looking at the start of that project, there was no IP ratings on the aircraft that they were potentially looking to create. There were no, it was one of those where the wind limitations were low. They needed huge spaces because we didn't have the vertical takeoff and landing transition into fixed wing flight type hybrid drones. At the time, so it's like, gosh, this is a long way off, and it's incredible, actually, isn't it, when you think about it? Then that the technology in just 7 or 8 years, I guess, has come on that far that it now is the risk credits from doing what you're doing allow you to be able to operate.
And I don't know, I don't mean to be a pessimist, but there is a reason why they left the UK and only kept, their tech team rather than operations team. I'm sure they're coming back and that's fine. But I think that's something we learned early on, is that if we manufacture our own platforms, we are then restricted and liable to making sure that the development of it reaches the standards of our environment as it continues to get worse. ESG, people. Whereas being drone agnostic, we can just swap and change between the different platforms that are suited to the conditions that we're operating in. It is really key in what we're doing, and that means that we can operate all year round. But the platforms that we're working with here, they wouldn't last in 45-degree humidity back in Western Australia. So it really is just looking through tech manuals and finding the right aircraft for your use case.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting then that the tech is part of the enabling side of that now then.
Absolutely.
And like you say, not necessarily bringing that in-house and having to develop that whole manufacturing process, the testing process, certification process. It's allowing other people, I suppose it's on that partnership model that you were talking about before, right? So
I mean, without that ecosystem, you've got your OEMs, you've got operators, you've got network providers, you've got landowners, you've got not one company can do everything. So it really pays to be humble, be trustworthy, and be true to your word. And I think that's something that Skyfarer has stayed steadfast with throughout this whole journey, and the thing I'm most proud of.
No, that's amazing, mate. Well, listen, thank you ever so much. It's been fantastic having you on. I'll drop all your links if you're watching on YouTube. I'll drop them in the video description. I'll drop them into the show notes if you're listening on Spotify. So go and check out skyfarer.co.uk. You can find out more about Georgia and what her and her team are up to. And then the Uncrewed Women's Network as well. It's been fantastic having you on, hearing about your journey and what it is that you guys are up to, and more importantly, kind of what you're looking to achieve moving forward. So thank you ever so much.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you ever so much. I've been Matt Williams. That's Georgia Parnham. I'll catch you next time. Until then, fly safe and blue skies.